Out of all of the kinds of games I expected to be able to play on the Nintendo Switch, a visual novel erotica definitely wasn't something I thought was going to happen, but it has happened. Over on Steam and PC for the past few years, there's been a catgirl visual novel series called Nekopara, and some developers and companies have decided they wanted to put this series not only on consoles, but on handhelds. So let's get right to it. This is my review of Nekopara Volume 1 for the Nintendo Switch. Nekopara revolves around a young man who moves out of his family's sweet shop to start his own business selling cakes. As soon as he moves out, he finds that two of the family's cat girls have stowed away, found their way to his new place, and plan on living with him. He then finds himself in a pretty tough spot, trying to open up his new cake shop with two very pushy cat girls, working their way not only into the cake shop's employ, but also his love life. Now, Nekopara is a very typical kind of harem anime cliche storyline. It's relatively entertaining, and it's got some comedy built in, but its erotic and hentai roots are really pushed hard in this game. Despite this being the censored version of Nekopara, there's still a huge amount of talk about the girls climaxing, insinuating sex that happened between all three of them, and more that really takes away from the actual story. Now, there's a bit of redemption here, because the extra story section of the main menu actually contains another game, Nekopara Volume 0, which has no erotic content, is really entertaining, has a ton of comedy, and dives into the backstories of a lot of the characters that are introduced in Volume 1 but are never really given any depth to them. Now, as far as the story being good or bad here, I'd say that the story of Volume 0 is good, and Volume 1 is decent, mostly due to the fact that a lot of the story is drowned out by the constant emphasis on sex. And as a final note before we move on to the next section, the translation isn't perfect either. Across the 5 or 6 hours you're going to be spending on these two games, there are dozens of little typos and errors that you'll find. It doesn't keep you from understanding what's being said, but there's a lot of them. In terms of gameplay, this is a visual novel with little to no interaction from the player. The basic thing to note is that there are no dialogue choice sections, so you're basically just enjoying the story. But before we get into anything else, let's discuss the two different versions of this game and how this version differs from the PC version. First off, there are two versions of Nekopara. The original version, which is the hentai or erotica version, and the censored version that was officially released on Steam that has all of the sex scenes cut out and some of the dialogue around those scenes altered to try to make this erotica into a non-erotica visual novel. The console version that's out now on Switch and will be available later this month on the PS4 is the censored version. As far as the censored version goes, what's different between the censored version on Steam and the censored version on the Nintendo Switch? First of all, according to the research I have done, Nekopara Volume 0 was not built into Volume 1 on PC, but it is here. Second is a little Easter egg known as the petting feature. In later entries of the Nekopara series, they added a little petting feature where you could go in any scene and use a pointer to pet any of the characters on screen for cute little blushing reactions. They've added this to the console version of Nekopara Volume 1. It still doesn't really affect any sort of ending or dialogue sequences in the game, but it's just a cute little feature to play around with. Now, in terms of the mechanics themselves, there's not really much to do here. There aren't any dialogue options, there are no alternate ending or branching paths to go through. You're just enjoying the story and having basic visual novel functions like pausing dialogue, auto-advancing dialogue, skipping dialogue, and taking away all of the HUD so you can see the artwork and take screenshots. And while you don't have a lot of features, the features you do have aren't really explained to you at all. Some of them are shown on screen with button prompts, but a lot of the options aren't explained to you. There's no tutorial, so it's a matter of just mashing buttons until something does something, and if you accidentally hit the skip text button, get ready to reload a save or start a new game to go back to where you were before so you can read what you lost. And now let's talk about time. In the community for Nekopara, it's pretty well known that the censored version lost at least a couple hours of content by having all of those sex scenes removed. Across the entire game here, you're probably going to be spending around 5 to 6 hours total. Volume 1 lasts around 4 to 5 hours, and Volume 0 should last you around 1 hour. Once you've completed both of them, you've pretty much done everything you can do. All of the CG, all of the artwork, and all of the background music will be unlocked, and there's virtually no replayability at all in the game, outside of just wanting to experience the story again. Unlike other visual novels, you can't go back for different endings because there's only one. Now let's go into presentation. Graphically, the game looks very good, as you'd expect a visual novel to look. All of the environments are very colorful and very detailed, as are the semi-3D models you get during the VN cutscenes. These are very similar to the models used by games like Hyperdimension Neptunia, where all of the actual parts are moving as if they're 3D models. And performance is pretty much the same. It's flawless. There aren't any frame drops, no freezing, no crashing, no nothing. It's optimized quite well. And to further these optimization claims, let's go into battery life. And this can be described very simply. There's enough battery life in this game for you to go through the entire thing on one charge. Here are my times from 100% to 0%. Maximum brightness with the Wi-Fi on, 4 hours and 48 minutes. Maximum brightness with the Wi-Fi off, 5 hours and 6 minutes. Lower brightness with the Wi-Fi on, 6 hours and 40 minutes. Lower brightness with the Wi-Fi off, 6 hours and 56 minutes. 5 to 7 hours, that's a lot. Now, in conclusion, Nekopara Volume 1 is an interesting visual novel if you like harem stories and catgirls. However, with this censored version still having an overwhelming amount of sex emphasis in the main story along with other errors here and there, it's a game really made and meant for those wanting to see a catgirl erotica, but without the erotica part. Even with the censored version, you can tell this is not the way the game was meant to be. Reviews to Go rates Nekopara Volume 1 for the Nintendo Switch a 6.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, or head to the website at www.reviewstogo.com.